Welcome back to Radical Health, everybody. My name is Seth. I got a special guest with me. This is Lester.
Hi.
I had to come to the middle of nowhere to track him down. We found him, and we're going to do an episode on a healing modality that people may not have heard about. I didn't hear about it until I met Lester, and it's called Body Unwinding. And let's just dive right into it. I want to know, what do you like about Body Unwinding, and what sets it apart from other physical healing modalities like massage or chiropractic?
Good question. So I typically call it the art of intuitive body unwinding. It's very, very in tune with the person's body and very unscripted, which is one big thing that sets it apart from many other modalities that tend to be more scripted by certain steps, certain patterns of how you move through the body. So setting it apart, yes, it's in tune with the client's body. It is my training and ability to be able to feel what their body wants in a given moment. So every single session will be different. Every person will be different because it's going to go by the client's body or your body.
Right.
So that's a big difference between like chiropractic and massage, some of the other common things. The other really big difference is that nothing is forced. Where with chiropractic, it tends to be a quick movement to convince something to adjust a certain way, or massage where we're actually trying to press or pressure something to release. And this is feeling the tension of the body and allowing the body to move in the way it wants to release it. The releases are tremendous without forcing anything.
Yeah, I would agree. I've been lucky to experience Body Unwinding and facilitate a little bit. And what you were just saying, it reminds me of that book, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. It made a big splash. It's a really great book about how trauma and pain and memories are stored in the physical body. And so when you were saying how you listen to the client's body, what does it want to do? That the body actually has an intelligence beyond the mind of that person, right? Because if a person tries to think their way through the body unwinding, it's not going to work, right?
Not work.
You have to sort of like surrender to what the body actually wants to do, because it keeps the score.
Yeah. Can I talk about the body keeping the score a little
Please.
bit? That's a fun one. So we're going to talk specifically about the fascia, or the connective tissue of the body. And that is like a library, like the biggest data bank. Huge amount of information is stored in the body. In fact, some scientists say that every body cell has the storage capacity to store your entire life information.
Every cell of the body can store.
I can't prove any of that to you, but there's a huge amount of capacity to store within the connective tissue. And this is directly working with the connective tissue. And so we're accessing that storage space, that library, if you will, continually. So as the body goes through a move to release a specific tension, you'll get reoccurring memories come to people. Like, I didn't think about that. I got my hand slammed in the car door, and I couldn't use it for a couple weeks, or something of that nature. And they're like, wow, I can literally feel that, and the memory is right there. So it's just like you open the library book to that page, and that, even though it may have been a long time ago, even years ago, that specific injury never completely healed for them, and so now it's giving them trouble in their present day life, just as an example.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about physical trauma, but there's emotional memories in these cells and muscles too.
Yeah,
right?
and it can be very complete, like the whole package, where you can see, hear, smell, feel everything that was surrounded with that. When we get into like accident traumas and abuse traumas and any of that kind of thing, where the body wants to bring this stuff to the surface, it wants to clear it out, wants to heal it. And there's a volume of information where they can feel like you're in that moment again. It's literally that detailed. Here's a really fascinating one that's very physical in how it happens and the appearance of it. Now, it may have its own emotions connected too, but I had one in a forehead where the connective tissue was going through its little gentle dance and move, and I could feel that there was something very significant there. And as that began to release, all of a sudden it reddened in a circle, and I could see the stitching from a baseball. The curved stitches, you could actually see the individual stitches. It turned white and red, and the exact stitch line.
Wow.
And they hadn't seen that for years. But right there it was. You could see the baseball very, very clearly.
Interesting. And so I want to go back to fascia for a minute, because that's what you mentioned as sort of the main connective tissue, and it holds a lot of memory, and it's very powerful and almost mysterious, because
Oh, yes.
it behaves in these amazing ways that are almost unexplainable because they have certain cellular shapes. But let's just talk about the fascia real quick. What is it? Where is it found on our body?
Good question. Fascia is considered the largest body system, greater than the nervous system, the circulatory system, the lymphatic system, or any others. For many years, the fascia component was disregarded. When they would study cadavers, they would cut the fascia away. That's the connecting fibers. If you look at a piece of meat or a chicken leg or something like that, and you see the white stuff, the stuff that would be tough, and I don't eat that anymore, but I know very much what it looks like. But the white in around the meat pockets, the meat cells, and coming down to the edge of the chicken's knee or elbow, it becomes less and less meat and more of the white, clear type strands. That's the connective tissue. So looking back through, that leaves the joint area, where we call it a tendon, and goes back through every fiber and every muscle, and it's completely surrounding it. So it comes down to concentration where you can easily see it. Same thing in a grapefruit or an orange. If you open it up, and there's this white or clear, tough membrane that separates the juicy cells. same principle. It's that connective tissue.
You showed me a video
I did show you a video
of like the cells of fascia.
Yeah, and
What can people search for to?
There's
It's
a
like
whole
fascia
video.
under the microscope, basically.
Yeah, it is.
Part of a living system too, and you can see how the cells and they're like tube systems,
It's tube systems.
and they can get longer and shorter, and so that's why we can get super tight and contracted and hold tension. Is because the fascia is not able to loosen up.
It's the most intriguing thing, because if you think of like maybe a ship's rigging or a knit sweater or something where all the little threads connect, and it has a certain pattern, and I'll just demonstrate it with my finger here. Let's just say this is a strand of fascia, and another strand is coming in here on an angle. And now, you want to just grab hold of my fingertip and pull it?
Yeah.
So now he's pulling up on it. This fascia here will slide down through to double the force, and instead of coming into the side. It can also change locations of where it's connected. At the same time, you can literally see the clear fluid droplets flowing through it. It's like plumbing, but it's so incredible. Like, how do you move a joint and not create a leak?
It's like it's the most complex tube system that covers our
very
body.
fascinating.
Yeah, our bodies are so amazing. And so that's why I love this healing modality, because you're not just forcing the body back into position, you're asking the body, you're gently allowing the body to unfold and unwind and do what it wants to do intuitively.
Yeah. And it'll literally go through what looks almost like an ecstatic dance. Where the body will move this direction, hold, move another direction, and you get this really an art form as the body responds to it. And each time another area releases, you'll feel the release. You often get a deep breath. And it's like, wow. And then all of a sudden, the knots and the tensions you felt have melted away, and nobody has dug into there and caused you a lot of pain. Nobody has twisted and cracked anything. Your body just went through its moves and untwisted all those little threads, those little tubules. They're incredible strong too. They're stronger than steel. It's like 2,000 pounds per square inch is what their tensile strength is.
Wow.
Stronger than muscle. In fact, in accidents at times, someone will react very fast, like a knee-jerk reaction type of thing, where the fascia will operate and pull your limb back faster than muscle could, and it'll actually tear out a bone. It'll actually tear a chunk of bone right out of the arm or the leg, because it has so much strength, way stronger than what the muscle is. Similar to when you touch a hot stove. I don't have to go to your brain and your brain send the signal down to your muscles. The fascia is almost instantaneous. It'll give you that jerk, pulling back before your muscle could ever respond.
Amazing. Our bodies are so amazing.
Yeah.
And you're also making me think of the fascia, since it's being all connected. It's your toe is connected to your ear through this web, this system. When you allow one part of the body to move a certain way, it can unlock a stuckness on a completely different part of the body.
Absolutely.
We were doing some unwinding last night.
That's a good example.
And Lester had this tension right here in the back of the shoulder, where like a lot of people commonly hold tension, have these knots right here in the back of the shoulder. And it wasn't until I sort of twisted the lower part of my body like this that the shoulders were able to relax.
Yeah.
And we both felt this melting of that knot. And so that's what I love about unwinding. And when you're just getting massage, and when someone's just digging their elbow or their fingers into your knot, you're really attacking it in this one-dimensional way. Whereas the body's a system. And obviously we gotta talk about what we eat and hydration and all that too. But a lot of times the body kind of just knows what to do and how to unwind itself from the position it got itself in.
And then people ask, like, how comes I don't know what to do? Like, why do I need someone to facilitate that?
So why do we need someone to facilitate
Good
that?
question. So most of us are out of tune with our bodies. We've been practicing discounting or not listening to what our body has been saying to us. And our body is talking, and we're not connected or as intuitively aware of what it's telling us. So with someone to facilitate it, they can feel the tension patterns and where they're headed and give you a little prompt in that direction, or touch the hot spot, press the button, as I say sometimes, and you're like, ooh, and then it brings your awareness to that. And then that person will support some of your weight as you move through that, so that we can pick up the smallest tension strands and which way they're going, and you don't have to support your whole body. But as you do engage in intuitive body unwinding, you become more and more in tune with your body, which opens up a whole other world that you could talk about for a long time. That's really fascinating, because it puts you way more in tune as a person and knowing what your body actually needs. And then you can respond. If you watch kids, for example, what's what they do? They go through all kinds of motions, and they lay on the sofa and they hang down off, and you're like, they're just being kids, and and they're having a great time, and they're actually unwinding themselves. And that's why how kids release a lot of tension. It's like they fall and they tumble and they do all kinds of things, and yet they're seemingly unbothered by them, a short time later. But they'll literally do whatever move feels right to them in that moment, like a gut, almost like the animal, the gut instinct. Yeah. And a lot of us as adults have moved away from that.
Yeah, kids have a lot of advantages as far as being more intuitive, but also potentially being more hydrated. I feel like as we get older, we get more dehydrated, eating the standard diet of, just cooked dehydrated food, not as much living food as maybe we were supposed to eat or could eat. But and they're also just more intuitive. They're less conditioned with all the conditions of our society. Right. One way that we don't listen to our body is by eating based off a clock, right? Where we go, oh, it's breakfast time, it's lunchtime, it's dinner time, but you're never actually asking your body, am I hungry? Yeah. And so one great intuitive bodily question I've always asked, especially since doing a fast, because when I was refeeding, this was a main question, is what does my body want to eat? Not what do I want to eat? Because if it was up to me, I might just pick pasta every single time. But when I ask my body and I think about pasta, it goes, And I think about maybe some cantaloupe and it goes, because it knows that it's fresh and in season, and we have some, and that's what it wants. So yeah, kids are a little more hydrated. They're a little less conditioned, and they're just more playful too. Like, how much
Let
does
go
that,
some of the seriousness.
how much does the element of play come into unwinding or just holistic health in general?
Ooh. I'll tell you what, it makes it a lot more fun. Although there is, and I'll just mention this momentarily, there's this whole heaviness type of thing that can be taken into healthy living. Oh, I must do this and I must do that. And that can become very burdensome really, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can keep it a lot lighter and a lot more fun as you learn things that may be beneficial in your healthy journey, and not be too hard on yourself if you eat something that supposedly wasn't the exact thing for you, it lowers your overall stress levels. Like you get more of an ebb and a flow. Maybe you do the fast, maybe you do more raw eating, and then you pull back for a moment, and then you advance again, and you don't put a super hard line critical weight upon yourself.
Well, that to me sounds like fascia getting all bundled up. When your brain doesn't allow you, or doesn't allow you to enjoy certain food, then it's like this tension, and we're trying to relax the tension. And so one thing I love about play in general, laughter, having fun, is it's a looseness. And you go ha ha ha, and you're laughing, and it's loose, and you're sort of shaking things off, and
then you can dance, you can have fun, you
can
move with it.
Exactly.
Movement is huge. But there again, a lot of times we put scripted movements in. We do the dance, and it's got to be the right steps.
Yep.
And that's all great and beautiful, but it's literally about more unscripting in our lives. And then we start unlocking the wisdom that we didn't even realize was there.
Yeah. Hey, do you have an example of an amazing transformation, or a particularly notable one from the past couple of years of unwinding that you've been present for, that you've seen? Just something to communicate. You don't just feel like your shoulders are looser leaving. Sometimes I've heard people say, oh, my hips are sitting different, like my posture is different. Sometimes there's just an emotional lightness, like you've released these emotional layers of stuckness. Can you give me an example of a particularly cool thing?
Yes. I have two that popped into my mind right when you were saying that. So the one comes from back when I was in school with my training to do the intuitive body unwinding. And a fellow student alongside of me in a group of maybe 15 students had been in a three-wheeler accident many years ago. I'm going to say 20 plus years ago. And ever after that, the woman could never run. Something would not let her run. And by this time, she was a mother, had several kids, and so she's doing the training course, learning the body unwinding, and in class, we always practice on each other. So we don't have to pull all you into practice on when we don't know what we're doing. But you're receiving a lot of body work, and so she's doing a lot of unwinding. And at some point in the sacral hip unwinding for her, she felt something click. And she's like, wow, that was a new one. And she got out of class at the end of the day, and she went outside, and she could feel within her body that she could run. She ran across the parking lot, and she was just so overjoyed. She got home to her kids, and she ran in the sidewalk. The kids come barreling out of the house, and they're like, Mom, what happened to you? And she's like, I could run after not being able to run for 20-some years.
That's amazing.
And it went through its unwinding and released the tension in different areas, and the body automatically realigned. The other one that I've seen a number of times is someone will have emotional stuff come up with, which is very common, and they have then the opportunity, when emotional stuff surfaces, we have the opportunity to process it at a level way deeper and way more thoroughly than what we did when something happened to us. And so they had the unwinding and an emotional release at the same time, which I think is one of the most powerful and life-changing experiences you can have. And her face changed so much that a friend saw her coming out of the office, and they're like, who is that? They didn't know, they weren't sure who it was.
Wow.
They actually thought it was a sister or sibling because their face had changed that much. So, yeah, there's a lot of exciting stories.
Wait, so
Change at times.
I have a few things to say, but one main burning question I have is, if this stuff is so powerful, how come it's not mainstream and widespread? And why can't I just find my local body unwinding practitioner in my city? Why does it seem so esoteric and underground?
Good question. I don't know that I have all the answers, and I'm going to say some things, and I'm not declaring them as statistically this is it. These are more my personal observations and thoughts on it.
And that's why we brought you in. We love your personal observations.
I love that. It's like, because life unfolds before you. It doesn't all have to be scripted and, well, this is the way the book says or whatever. But we can trust the guidance that we have in our own bodies and intuitively. So it is becoming more popular. And my training doctor out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, he set up teachers. I was one of his co-teachers for a while. I've taught students from various countries around the world. And it's growing, but it's very slow. And one of the reasons, and I'm just going to give his example, which he's written about in the past, but he was earlier in dental surgery and orthopedic stuff. And he was noticing, after he worked in somebody's teeth and mouth, that they had TMJ problems because your mouth is jammed open or stretched or put in a torque angle when you're working with teeth. And so he began to release the connective tissue after he learned about that. He was searching for answers, like, what can we do? Because now we have a continual problem that we didn't have before. And he got invited to discontinue or to be dismissed because he was hurting the paycheck. So the organization said, we're not going to have you on board here in this health center or part of this organization of dentists or dental surgeons because people no longer have the problem. So it's bad for money. People heal.
Yeah, that's a common pattern that we see in the quote-unquote healthcare system, where a natural healing modality enters the picture, and then the establishment, the system, gets threatened by that, and because they have a lot of money to be made off keeping people sick. And that sounds so dark to people who haven't read about this and thought about this for a while. It sounds really dark and messed up, that this healthcare system that seems like it's there for our benefit wants us sick. But we don't got to go too deep down that rabbit hole, but it's a pattern we see all the time. We talk a lot about plant-based eating, and especially the raw version. I've had so many people on the show explaining how they reverse these lifelong chronic illnesses. The doctor said, you'll never heal from this, and you need these meds for the rest of your life. You choose a new option. And why isn't that mainstream? It's sort of the similar answer, is it doesn't make any money. Or it can make money. You can make money as a practitioner.
Right, exactly.
But it doesn't make the system as much money
it's much more corrective.
As the chemo meds.
So you don't keep generating the long-term, big, strong income stream. But one of my favorites comes from a gentleman I know well from Alberta, Canada. And he was actually a technician for cattle feed systems and their dietary mix systems. And I accompanied him one day along on the job, and as we're working in the feed room with all the different minerals and stuff, and it's very technical. This adds a little of this and a little of that based on what they think the animal needs. And he just made this comment to me. He said, we're way ahead with animal health than what we are with human health. He said, do you know why? And I'm like, not sure. And he said, if we produce a healthy cow, we make money. He said, in the human medical industry, he said, if we keep a human sickly, we make money. If they become healthy, we lose money. So it's exact opposite propulsion system or motivation platform.
That's wild.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. The corruption that's going on. And
yeah,
I think we're seeing it a lot this generation. We're seeing it more and more. Say what you will about the Maha movement. It's at least having us open our eyes and ask questions about what are they putting in the food, what are they putting in the shots, and what is the purpose of this healthcare system. And
I think that's a place to start. Like, ask questions so that you can be informed and you can learn and you can think for yourself, really. I'd like to say your earlier question was, why isn't it so mainstream? Why might you not find this in your local telephone book?
Right.
If you use a telephone book. That's going by the way too. Online white pages or something. So we just moved into a new area, and we looked for massage therapists in the area, and you can find some. There's several to pick from. Body Unwinding, no. Now, there are places you can get it, and like I said earlier, it is growing, but it doesn't fit into the Western health model nearly as well as some of the other things. So there's more of a doing, I do something to you, fits into that model much better. Or I go to the doctor or the therapist and I want them to fix me.
I want to receive something.
They're going to do something and then I will be better. This is way more, I will help myself release my tension. It's very fun. It's amazing. It's like I'd like to receive these every day. It's one of the most rewarding, fun, enjoyable experiences, and you feel so great afterwards. I love it. But you're very engaged with it because during the process, you are paying attention to what your body needs. You're learning about your body. So it's way more active, less passive, less about someone else giving you something or doing something to you.
Well, I want to chime in and say it's active and it requires responsibility. It requires me to be intuitive. It requires me to surrender to my body. It requires me to not put all my faith in the doctor or the pill or the thing that I'm about to get. And that's not a popular thing. Personal responsibility is not popular. And that's why, like I said before, the whole healthy eating, clean eating, eating living foods, it ain't popular because it requires responsibility, requires a lot of taking in information. Why would I want to do this? Why would I not want to eat certain things? And it just requires a lot of work. People don't want to do that. They want the quick, easy fix. So if you want to stay with the quick, easy fix, keep getting the massages and chiropractic. Let me ask you actually, what are your opinions on a little simple massage, a little simple chiropractic? Does it have a time and place?
I think it does, and I've used them together. I've had some significant back injuries in the past, and I was like, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid going for surgery. So I did my bed rest, I did chiropractic, I did the unwinding. I did not do massage, at least not regularly during that time, but I was like, I want to use whatever I can that feels better to my being. And I've had a lot of chiropractic adjustments. I like the unwinding much better for myself, but I've used both, and I've had chiropractors send people to me with things that weren't responding well for them. I don't want to say anything against that.
And I don't either. I do enjoy chiropractic. I think it has a time and place. There's spinal alignment is huge. A lot of times you won't intuitively, knock your vertebrae back into the place it needs to be. I do think there's a time and place for chiropractic. And then what about like in massage, just the simple element of touch?
Oh, that's huge. And you also have that in the intuitive body unwinding because it's hands-on for the whole thing. You're always in touch with the person, and you're following, you're supporting their body with whatever it wants to do. Touch is huge. Wow. Where do you want to go with that one, Seth?
Well, what can simple touch do for somebody? Like even a hug. I mean, we've seen science on how much oxytocin or whatever endorphins you release just after a certain amount of time hugging somebody, and skin on skin contact. Let's just start at the very basic.
Wow.
Skin on skin contact.
Okay, so that takes me to, I guess it was a horrible exploration. I want to say it was Nazi Germany or somewhere like that, with an orphanage. And they deprived infants and toddlers of human touch.
Wow.
The results are horrible. but they mechanically came in, like they weren't allowed to do anything other than the bare minimum. Like they flipped them over, changed the diaper, filled the bottle that hung on their cages or cribs, and put some food there for them and left immediately. No other, they weren't supposed to touch them, communicate with them. And those kids, like almost across the board, they were like, they got blind. They weren't. They got blind. They got deaf. They couldn't speak anymore. Like they lost the capacities that they even had. Like that's an extreme. That's the loss of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think, and maybe I'm a little radical in the thinking, but I think we have a host of societal issues that come from a lack of human touch, of good, healthy human touch. And I'm, not talking about grabbing a kid by their arm and dragging them along with you, like, but I'm talking about like a hand on you or around your shoulders, or, and then we're like, okay, so we hold our kids on our laps and we give them hugs and we read stories and all that kind of stuff. And that's important for their development, and it's very important. And then you grow up, and then what?
Mm-hmm.
And so then
go find your own touch.
Yeah, then there's this big disconnect. And there's a lot of people who are literally starving for touch. And I think that starvation then comes out in a host of other ways that are way less healthy, and maybe we even sometimes label as societal ills, because they go into harmful responses because a basic need is not being met.
Mm-hmm.
Or we relegate it to a sexual relationship and we say like, well, you're only supposed to receive touch from your romantic partner or something of that nature. And so now we put a big load on the other person, because now this other person got to supply all my need for touch, if I even recognize that I do have that need. And sometimes we don't want to be that close to each other for the moment. And so you end up with starvation again.
Yeah. So some cultures, between men, between like two heterosexual men, like they'll hold hands. It's like a thing, and it's totally platonic and fine.
Yeah.
Also, I think it begins before the touch. I think we have an aura, a field, an energetic field, that when they come together and get close, it creates a new one. It creates a bigger one. And this is part of why I believe we were all told to stay 6 feet apart from each other in 2020. Don't get me started on that whole thing, but they want us separate. They don't want our energy fields mingling. And so when we create a new energy field, we're together, we can hear each other. I think there's subtle information being passed, but then it gets taken to another level when there's touch. And even just a simple like, hey, it can feel so good and electric.
Oh yeah.
And then you even have
It's very supportive.
But you also have a thin layer of thing here. If it was on skin,
Oh yeah.
I think it would be another electric
It is
layer.
I've proved that to myself with clients where I had an area that was stuck and bound up, and I couldn't get it to release. And I like to be intuitive myself, and so I'm asking myself the question: is there anything coming to me that would be helpful in this situation? And many times I'll get I'll hear the words or the idea will come to me. And in that time I did that. I didn't know what else to do. Like, it's locked up, they're in pain, and it's not functioning. And so in that time I was just working through their fabric, and I just asked, can I go directly on the skin and hold that area? And let's see what your body tells us at that point. And I'm going to say within 15 to 30 seconds of simply holding the area in my hand, it started to relax and respond. And in a little bit that released and the pain disappeared and unlocked.
Man, our skin is so powerful and smart. I noticed the same thing with food. I can tell what my body wants by touching a thing now. I've literally just, as of last week, I remember picking up something. It wasn't food. It was like a hitch to my car or something like that. But I'm getting all this information from this steel, from this metal. And I felt something in my body that was like, don't eat that. I don't need anything to tell me don't eat a hitch. But the information I was getting from my skin was that. And then I was on a farm, and I pick a mulberry, and I get this feeling of like that. My fingers told me this is food.
It's interesting because I've heard from friends who eat with their fingers, like don't use the metal utensils or wooden chopsticks or anything like that. And their culture is to eat with their fingers. And they talk about that, like your body is actually preparing to digest that particular thing as you get that in your hands, whatever that is that you're eating.
And
so
I bet you can. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
I bet you can tell when you're full if you're eating with your hands sooner, because it's all this information. If it's on a fork, you're looking at it, but your skin isn't telling you anything. But when you're holding it, your skin can tell you, oh, I have enough of that. And so it might give you those signals sooner. So our skin is super powerful. I
think we've just scratched the surface and even like venturing to guess what all, how you mentioned hugs.
Yeah.
There's a study that says 12 hugs a day are necessary just for like optimum health. Like I've asked people, I haven't found people who said they get 12 hugs a day. A lot of people don't get any in a day.
Yeah.
And then the other study says that if you hug for longer than 20 seconds, you'll get a whole shift in the nervous system. And I've experimented with many times, where I'll give someone a hug and then I just hold, and somewhere around that 20-second mark or a little after, all of a sudden I'll feel their whole body kind of settle down and relax. And now we had a good exchange. Like we just relaxed together.
That's a form of intuitive body unwinding.
It is.
In a way.
It is.
And we're doing it all the time, constantly, I think, as we shift. And the more we grow into our intuition and in our body, I think the better we can get at doing this ourselves. But it always helps to have a facilitator.
Yeah, it does, especially to begin with, to tune you into. But there's so much more, because even knowing a lot of what my body needs, at the very most, I only get about 80% of my issues. And I'll do my unwinding and I can feel it. And there's things you can do to try it. In fact, if you want to try a little sample for yourself, let's just say, for example, you woke up and your neck is a little stiff in the morning or something. You got a kink, very common. So just pause for a moment and say, which way does my head or neck want to move, or my arm? And allow yourself to go into that position, and then just freeze that. And sit there until your body don't want to be in that position, or it like melts like butter. And then switch. And is there another position? And then you hold that one until that melts away. And you just follow that until you're not sure where to go with it, and then feel what you feel like. Something almost anybody can try, and that just skims the surface, but give you a little personal feel of that. So you move in a position that feels like a good position, you hold it till it melts like butter, and then experiment and see if there's any others. And you're not getting radical, you just wherever that feels like. Does it feel like it wants that stretch? But avoid doing this step-by-step prescribed method.
Like a scripted thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, I should do this exercise if that's the problem. No, just which way does my body want to move? And then I'll just hold that till it dissolves. And now we're getting beautiful moisture.
Oh, this feels really good, this rain.
So when the fascia unwinds, you get much more fluid flow. So this also ties in with hydration as well.
Yeah.
So when something is tight, knotted up for a long period of time, the fluid will gel, the gel will crystallize, and you get to crinkles and crackles that some people hear and feel when they move.
Yeah.
And as that starts to release, the crystals can turn to gel, and the gel can turn to liquid again, and you can get that flow and get hydration, nutrition into that, and you get that freedom of movement back.
It's amazing.
And the hydration thing, so my typical thing, this comes from my training 18 some years ago, and that was to tell your clients to drink plenty. What happens when the tissues release, automatically there's going to be a greater flow, and your lymph system's got more stuff to get rid of. And so you drink plenty of water, because you're going to want to literally pee that out. You want to flush that out of your system. If you don't, it will bunch up places, and you'll feel like, I had an unwinding yesterday, and now I feel stiff and achy and sore. And it's just the released toxins are now like hanging up in other places. And you need a good healthy flush to get that out. Your body wants to get rid of that stagnant toxins and stuff that build up in there.
And lately I've been exploring intake of salt and limiting it, and then unlimiting it and seeing how it affects my body. What I notice is that when I'm consuming salty food, I have more of those crinkles, and I have more knots, and I have more stiffness, and I recover slower after working out. And when I'm just on the fruits and the greens and nuts and seeds and some lightly cooked vegetables, wow, my body's much more nimble. I'm more flexible. I'm in less pain. I recover faster. It's pretty incredible. So that's one thing you can do on a cellular level.
Lowers inflammation levels. The lighter you can be on your system. I had a health coach tell me that stress is cumulative. Whether it's stressed out from your job or a relationship or how you're sitting or what you're eating, you know, what your thinking processes are, your emotional state, and any of those that you begin to lighten the load starts to help your body become more free and be able to operate. And eating and drinking good water and plant liquids like juicy fruits and lettuce and all those kind of things that have, you know, nature has put the fluid there for
Exactly. Well, so you're pointing to the holistic nature of health in general. And so, yes, when you relieve stress, you can have physical symptoms go away. That happened to me. I was working too many jobs, too many projects one time. I saw a new doctor, and she did a survey of my whole life and my stress levels and everything. And that was the first thing we attacked. She's like, you got to quit one of these projects. And I did. And I felt this whole weight lift off of me, and everything started getting better. My skin started getting better. Wow. And then we started addressing the food issue. But yeah, stress is a killer, and you got to unwind that. So we're talking about the holistic nature of health. So if we could look at our buckets, we have, I think stress is a huge one. Food is a huge one. I'd be willing to estimate 50% of your health, meaning you can seriously tip the scales by just changing what you eat. You don't even have to change how you sleep or your relationships or your stress levels. You should if you want to address the whole package. But I think, stress is huge. Food is huge. But the body itself, like adults are so conditioned and patterned to sit at their desks all day, sit in the same positions.
Low movement.
And even the ones who do exercise are likely doing a lot of the same exercises and likely causing a lot of stress.
Go to the gym and
you see the gym bros are like not flexible. Like they're strong in some ways, they can lift weights, but are they mobile?
It doesn't feel very human to me.
Lifting weights and like...
Right. As a rounded out human, you should have a lot of a capacity. Like a human should have great capacity. And a lot of people who really push the gym hard are limiting their capacities.
Right.
So they may excel in one area, but it doesn't actually enhance the whole of life.
Yeah, everything's very symmetrical in the gym when you're doing your your lifts or your rows and deadlifts and things like that. You have the same amount of weight on both sides. But in nature, you don't find that as often. You're lifting one heavy thing here and like a different weight thing here, or you're holding it asymmetrically. And asymmetrical load is actually really good for the body. According to people like Pavel Tsatsouline, who I listen to a lot, is a Russian physiologist, sports therapist, amazing guy.
I don't consider myself like very strong. And I've never done the gym. I visited it one time with a friend, or twice with a friend. He basically invited me to go along. So I'm a gym stranger, but he enjoyed that. And at one time he was lifting quite a lot of weight. He was also the walk around like the strange ape type of thing. But anyway, for a lot of his life, he's done some kind of gym type thing, either at home or at the gym. And when we would work side by side in holistic life exercises, like we were hoeing on the farm, in the dirt, and while he could have lifted way more weight than I could, I wasn't out of breath, and I was working almost twice as fast as him, and I was never working out, but I was just mobile. I was doing normal life activities on a daily basis, and he was doing a more scripted, structured thing on a daily basis. And it didn't equate to a better quality of life or even more ability to do natural human things.
Practical things. Farm work. Yeah. It's really interesting.
I'd like to dive in a little bit more with the physical emotional connection, and we talked about that earlier because with the fascia storing the memory, but it is really big, and it actually touches on my heart passion. I love to facilitate somebody's journey in unwinding and learning that they can let go of their things and they can process stuff. My passion lies where we move in with the body and let the body start telling its story and unwinding. And as it finds the things that they're holding there, the stresses, the traumas, the issues, whatever that they were holding in their body, because we store different things in different parts of our body. As the body surfaces that information, that happening, that repeated experience, then to actually facilitate the clearing of that. And it's the person's journey. I'm not here to fix anybody. I'm only here to support the journey. But it's a very powerful support. So I had done private training or semi-private training, a small group training with a doctor out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and learned the unwinding. I learned cranial sacral. I learned the fascia and myofascial release techniques and a lot of that, and put it together into an unwinding style package. And so I already was practicing this for some time before I actually did my classic massage schooling. So while I was in massage school, my teacher knew a little bit about what I did before, but it wasn't commonly known. And so one day she's like, hey, I got some time. Will you show me? Which we'll hopefully do here in a little bit. Will you show me what it is? I've heard you talk about it, but I don't have any, experience to know exactly what you're talking about. So she got on the table and I began to follow her tension patterns and just support her body in moving with the flow that it wanted to move. And 15 minutes later, she got up or sat up on the table. We come to a nice stop and she just shook her head and she's like, do you know that you will never sell a massage? I said, yeah, I know that. She's like, this is way beyond anything we come close to training here. And I enjoy massage. I think that's great. And it's great for the human touch too. I don't really enjoy when somebody forcefully tries to dig a knot out. Mm-hmm. That doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't actually feel in tune with my body, but I've done it at times because I did get some results. But just to be on the table and have someone else care for you and have a good, healthy contact and touch has done volumes for me. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of it when I was living singly. It's just as a good way to stay connected to other humans. Anyway, where were we going with that? Oh,
well, you were talking about emotional to physical connection.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about, you described it once to me as an onion with layers. Mm-hmm. Can you recall that metaphor? Because I think it was about emotional healing and the layers that you have to go through. And imagine getting stuck with a sword. That was part of it, right? Where like the layers have to heal this, the skin and the muscle and the organ and potentially the arteries and the bone. There's layers and layers and layers. The emotional system is as complex as that.
It is, and that same example of peeling an onion with the many, many layers gets used for the connective tissue unwinding, and it gets used for the emotional processing. Because a lot of these things, when you discover a principle of holistic wellness, you'll find the same principle applies in like following your body what it's telling you to eat. It follow your body how it wants to release and unwind its stresses. Follow the body in how it wants to bring up and clear the emotional state. Follow the body to your spiritual connection. And I've seen a very strong connection with that. I've had very devout religious people who did several body unwindings and say their meditation time is like way beyond anything they had before. And like they would read in their Bible or their whatever inspirational writings that they're reading, they'd be like, I get it. And that happened as the body released. It's incredible. So the spiritual connection, when you talk about holistic, it enhances that in ways like our, I don't know how to put words to it, but when somebody experiences it, they're like, wow, it changed my life. And how do you get down through the emotional layers? Because we tend to be very layered, especially with more significant things. If something upset you a little bit yesterday, that may clear out very quickly. But a lot of the things that affect our lives today are there for a lot longer term. They happened when we were kids or many years ago or whatever, and never fully cleared. And then we build on top of those, so it becomes these layers. So I'm going to jump into let me say this. So I had experiences with people who've been through extreme traumas, and it sent me on a path to saying a better way. I've seen them, visiting the psychiatrist or the counselor or the mentor or whatever, on and on and on and on, and little changes in their life. And I'm not saying there's no good there. Like, I think a lot of people have been helped to live a better quality of life.
Through talk therapy.
Through talk therapies of various kinds. But I was watching them and saying, you still don't get to experience the fullness of life. It's still holding you back. Like, you've gained something, but there's so much more that you could live so much more free and full. And I put me on a deeply emotional clearing, spiritual quest, seeking for the answer for how to help. How can that be facilitated? What's the best and fastest way? I don't want to spend 25 years going through the same thing and only gain a couple little steps. So I became really passionate with that. I had some people really close to me who had been through like major stuff. And it led me to what I use today, and I use it along with the Body Unwinding. And again, the principles are like so aligned, and it's the art of feeling through, or the practice of feeling through. So let's say that I feel hurt or offended by you or rejected. You haven't called me in how many months or something like that. Like, whatever it is, and I'm feeling that emotion. I just feel like nobody cares right now. I'm feeling that really alone. And it's simple, and yet it catches us so quickly.
Because you have a choice in that moment.
You do have a choice in that moment. So put it in a very simple nutshell, and this is something I've watched kids get a hold of. It's so powerful. It's the fastest one I found today, and the most clearing one that I've found so far. The feeling through. So I feel that aloneness, I feel that rejection, whatever I think it is, and I feel that emotion. So I will let him disappear. I'm going to let story disappear. Whatever happened to me, whoever did or didn't do what I thought they should. And I'm going to feel as lonely and rejected and sad as what I can possibly feel. And so I just sit with that. Just feeling that feeling. Let the tears come if they want. Let your body go into that position. I feel dejected. And I'm going to feel this as deeply and deeply, deeply as I possibly can. And all of nature is like releasing with us right now.
Yeah, right at this moment the rain picks up.
And usually within a few minutes, and many times it's under 2 minutes, all of a sudden you'll be like, I feel lighter. And you just cleared a layer of that. Now you may need to come back to that if it's very significant and do another onion layer when you're ready.
Right.
But it's been so powerful.
Well, because you allowed yourself to cry and feel and process. And so feeling it through, processing it through is so important, because when I said you have a choice, what's the other choice? You can go stress eat, you can go drown your sorrows, you can go drink, you can go do drugs, you can go, eating is a common one to feel better because it's instant.
Work many hours, stay at the office all the time. Something.
Bury yourself in work, bury yourself in distractions, and that will lead you away from the healing, and that will actually bury the emotion deep in there, and you're going to have to process it eventually. Yeah,
because it will dramatically affect your life. Anything that we don't clear and process, whether we're consciously aware of it or not, it will significantly impact our lives and keep us from being all that we could be, our fullness.
Right. We're going to pause for the rain and see if it clears up. So Lester, can you tell us a little bit about where we are and what you're building?
Yeah. So following my passion, like I talked about earlier, with the intuitive body unwinding, and then not leading into the emotional stuff surfacing and being able to clear that feeling through, and putting all that together. And then I want a place where people could come where they could do this intensely, like for a number of days or a couple of weeks, where they could really work through that. And then that leads into a whole lot of other life experiences about what it means to like live more naturally and more connected with nature and more human-like and less programmed and industrialized and all that. So that all of that in a really little nutshell has led up to where we're sitting right now on a property in eastern Kentucky, in the Green Mountains, and a stream running behind us and the rain falling, and living quite simply less things, more outdoors, more connected with nature, more in touch with our food and our water and all of that. And a space where you can live in a low stress environment for a period of time, be it a couple days or a couple weeks, to really focus on your own healing and how you eat and how you live and how you walk, and let a lot of the stresses fall away. So we're right in the middle of creating a healing retreat. It's up and coming. We just put the driveway in. We moved some mobile units in. We're just about ready for people to begin arriving. So it's very exciting. But this is a space where somebody can actually come and be present for a little while and do some intensive work. So we're really, really excited about that. And we'll see what all God does and who all comes our way as far as that. But, I think you can probably put a link in the description or something on how to get in contact with us.
Absolutely. If you guys want to learn more, you reach out, and I'll put a link in here to follow up and to stay in touch and stay abreast of what's going on here.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome, because it's literally changing almost every day here.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really coming up to speed. And there's a lot more developments on in the future, but one of the things that I felt really passionate about is that very soon after arriving on this pristine piece of land, is that we prepare as we are to walk with people. So people actually are here. While it's not all perfect and it's not all completed, we don't have to wait till we're at the end of our journey to be able to walk with people, but daily life we're going to walk with people too.
Love it.
So we can pause during the day and do some sessions, and somebody can sit by the stream and meditate, or go for a hike and as they process, or go to one of our mobile cozy little spaces and get some extra sleep, whatever they need.
Sounds great.
So, yeah, it's happening.
Lester, we worked together on the farm in Miami. I learned a lot from you. One thing I always remember that you would say that helped us stay healthy and stay sane and stay relatively stress-free is you kept reminding everyone who was there working together to be true to yourself. And I just want to hear from you, why is that so important? I mean, we're talking about the physical nature of it, being true to what your body wants.
Ooh, yeah.
But when you're true to what your heart and your mind and your body wants, really magical things can happen. And just one more little caveat before I turn it over to you is you would allow us to take the day off work, even if we said the previous night, I plan on working at 9 a.m. And then if we get up and it's 8:30 and we feel like garbage, or you just don't want to that day, you had that allowance built in, and it was actually really beautiful. It didn't create this culture of laziness, didn't create a culture of canceling at the last minute. What it created was a culture of being true to yourself. And you know what? My true self tells me in this moment, I need an extra hour of rest. And you'd honor that. And it was so nice. I'd never been in a job like that. In fact, when I told people this is how we operated, they'd be so suspicious that anything would ever get done. They go, what? There's no response. You don't have, there's no follow through, all this stuff. It's like, no, there is follow through. It's personal responsibility. You just would always encourage us to be true to ourselves in the moment, no matter what that was. And so what does that mean to you, and why do you encourage everyone to do that?
That was a wonderful exploration. So managing that fruit farm, and you're right. Collectively, we got a lot done within the first year. We had planted over 2,000 fruit trees, and we've done a lot of cultivation, and we built a beautiful little intentional community to do that job and to live and interact together. A lot of stuff got done.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of good times. Wow. Yes,
and
be true to yourself.
And we were practicing this personal development of being true to ourselves. And what does that even mean? Who am I? What's true? Like, we developed that at the same time.
Yeah. So I don't know where you're at in this, and I'm not trying to persuade anybody on any religious path or not, but it's recorded that Jesus said that when you know the truth, or if you know the truth is what sets you free. So I'm just going to use that phrase for a moment. The truth sets you free. And there's different levels of truth, I believe, but let's just go with what's my truth in this moment. A lot of people don't know. What is my truth in this moment? What do I want to be? If I was completely true to myself, what would I be doing? What would I be like? What would I be thinking? Right in this moment. And to the best of my knowledge, it's true to myself to be sitting on this log, on this yoga mat, to keep my butt clean, along with my good friend Seth, talking to you wonderful people. So thank you for this honor and this privilege. But it's a question to ask ourselves again and again, like, what is true to myself? Let's say someone wants you to do something and you're like, I ought to do it because of who they are or what they did the last time or whatever, but I really don't feel like it. Those are the things, like, what is true to yourself in that moment? Maybe you staying home and reading a book or doing something else, a little bit of self-care is what would be true to you in that moment. And when you can begin in some area of your life, begin to understand what's true, and it's a journey. You're like, I think this is true, and you're not even sure right now, but as you practice it, you get better and better. You get more and more honest, and you start doing what's true to yourself. And so I was enjoying watching this, and it took some flexibility. Like, how many job places do you have a number of people working there, and you can tell each person, like, I want you to be true to yourself. If you're planning to help plant trees today and something within you is not clear to do that right now, honor that and find out what your truth is. Sometimes it takes a short time. Sometimes it took 20 minutes for you to just have a relaxed breakfast and be with yourself for a little bit, and then you're ready to work. Sometimes it was like the day, something was going on. But wow, I'm glad you mentioned that. Like, what did it all do to you? Like, I knew this is an important thing.
Well, what I noticed is when you agree to do something that you truly don't want to do, you can actually end up hurting yourself or the project because you're not focused. You're thinking about something else. Your attention's split. Your emotions are elsewhere. You know, you're feeling these tough emotions, and you're not free and clear to do the project at hand. So that's why I think it's a really safe practice to be true to yourself, because something in you might go, I don't want to do this right now, you know. And then when we tell that voice to shut up, and we go do the job because my boss wants me to do it, we can end up hurting ourselves.
Your stress level goes like this. You get angry, you get frustrated, you start redlining, you start talking unkind to the people around you, you stub your toe and you bang your forehead and you and then you didn't catch up on the rest that you could have caught up on, and then, you know, you could have done the job better just when you were ready for it. But people are different, because some people say, I do things I don't want to do, and that makes me the best version of who I am. I'm not one of those people. I don't think you are either. No.
We actually have very similar astrology. We have our birthdays one day apart. So we're both late Scorpios. But whatever, that might not mean anything. Human design is another, like, personality type of science. And you can have different authorities. You can have a emotional authority. You can have a secular authority. So people are built differently. People have these different authorities that they can listen to and tune in. I mean, we all have a heart that we can tap into, but yeah, I think being true to yourself is one of the most powerful and profound practices that you can engage in, because I'm glad you brought up spirituality and Jesus, because I do hear God speaking through me. And
it's powerful.
And when I ignore that, and when I'm not true to that voice, I end up suffering. I end up suffering in some way, and it may be instant, it may take a few days or way longer. But think about it in your own life, listener. Like, when you're true to yourself, and when you listen to that inner voice, and you're true to that thing, that essence, what happens? You know? And then when you're not true,
experimenting, really. Like, you test it out for yourself.
And do you hear a voice? Is it in your head? Is it in your heart? Is it in your sacrum? You know, what is leading your decisions day to day, and what's your intuition come from? Really.
And different people talk about it different ways. Like, some people say the universe is speaking, or their angels speaking to them, or God's speaking to them. And I don't really care what term you use, or it's an energy they felt that was directing them in a way, but there's a something that can come to you that will direct your lives in ways that your brain might question at first. But if you experiment and start testing them out, after a while you're like, wow, my life is changing and I feel happier doing what I'm doing. And you actually work better, you'll be better performance, all of that. If it feels good to me to do this right now, you get it done in half the time or whatever, and you'll be less accident prone.
Yeah.
You're not stressing at it, you're not yelling at the people around you, like
You're in a flow state.
yeah, it's way better.
Yeah. So
Which might actually connect you more with your feminine. The flow state is very feminine in nature, and we've probably overly masculinized a lot of things. I don't know if that's a word, but it works.
no, I think you're on point with that, because in my opinion, yeah, the flow energy is feminine. I think to create a flow state, you need masculine form. You need, I go on like this because I'm picturing the flow chart in my mind. It's the y-axis is challenge and the x-axis is ability. So when your ability matches the challenge at hand, it opens up this channel and you can enter a flow state. When things are too hard and it's too high of a challenge for your ability, it's frustrating, you're not in flow. And conversely, on the other end, when it's too easy and it's not challenging enough for you, you're not in flow. So I think to set up that condition is the masculine, and then the flow itself is the feminine. I don't see those energies as separate really ever. They're always balancing in this cosmic balance, which is beautiful. But be true to yourself. Be true to yourself.
I just had a thought as you're speaking there, and I'm looking into the camera to you, the person there listening to that. And all of a sudden I had this question. It's like, how is this impacting you, the person, the one who heard it? And it's just like, I don't know who I'm speaking to, but it feels really, really divinely aligned. Like this is going to mean something to some people who it's actually going to motivate them to action of some kind, either to be more aware of their self or to explore facilitated body unwinding or emotional processing or any of that kind of thing. Like all of a sudden there's like, I had this knowing that the person who hears this, it's really important. Wow. Well, I feel that through my whole being right now.
And I think it's because you're where you want to be. And it's because
got the goosebumps and everything going on. Oh my, that's something's powerfully shifting it.
Yeah, we're both living in alignment in this very moment, because I woke up today saying, I want to do this episode. I have so many things I want to talk to Lester about and share. I think you're on the same page, and that's why this might connect with whoever's listening. So
it's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And I actually want to go back and amend what I said about listening to the voice of God or the universe or whatever. When I listen to my inner guidance, I think I said earlier, good things happen. The best things happen. It's like the best things you could possibly imagine when you listen to the pure inspiration. I don't mean your cravings and your ego, and we can hear those voices too, but it's this pure, that's why I call it God, because I think it's very pure, and whenever I listen to it and obey it, the best things happen. And unexpected too. And then when I don't listen to it, again, suffering and injury. So be true. And that's the core of body unwinding. I think it'd be good to sort of...
Yeah, because you're literally being true to yourself in that moment. And you're being true to the emotions that arise and honoring them. It's again, the being true to yourself. The truth is a principle. And then it just applies to one thing after another.
Totally.